Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and others. Thank you. Good point. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming along tonight. I guess the level of everyone's concern about what's going on is reflected by the number of people here tonight. Hopefully we can help you understand the situation tonight and at least leave having your questions answered and with some really good knowledge about what to expect over the next few days. So my name is Tony Doyle. I'm Southern Grampian Shire Council CEO. And I'd just like to start by acknowledging that we're gathered on the traditional lands of the Gunditjmara people, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present. So we've got a number of presenters tonight who I will introduce to you shortly. I think the majority of presenters, and including myself as MC, have just found out we're presented and just found out we're MC. So bear with us if it's a bit disjointed, but we'll make sure you go home with what you need. We're going to ask that probably just keep your questions till the end because all the presenters will probably, by the time they've all finished, cover off hopefully on the majority of what you want to know. But certainly we'll make sure there's plenty of time at the end to take any questions and answer any questions you've got. So I'd like to just firstly introduce who we do have here tonight. We have the Incident Controller, John Rofe. John, welcome. We have from VicPol, Victoria Police, Superintendent Mel Webbers and Acting Sergeant Sean McCulloch. Sean asked me to introduce him as District Commander, great to have them here and the role they've played has been incredibly important. From Emergency Recovery Victoria, we have Richard Kerwell. Welcome, Richard. From the CFA Southwest Region, we've got James Haley just down here. And if you ever want a fantastic example of how great volunteerism is in our community, it was only yesterday that it was decided, I don't want to steal your thunder, James, but it was only yesterday they decided to do a planned burn along the Cavendish-Dunkeld Road, and yet, having only decided that yesterday, they had about 80 people out there today in 20 different tankers doing that job to keep the community safe. So I think that really needs a round of applause. And we also have Western District Health Service CEO, Rowena Clift. So welcome, Rowena. From Southern Grampians Council, we have Susanna Milne. Her day job is Manager of Community Wellbeing, but her night job is emergency recovery. So Susanna will talk about that a bit later on. And I have Vicky Collins, who's now hiding. Where are you going, Vic? Vicky's here. So Vicky's our Municipal Emergency Management Officer. And we do rotate that role around within council, and she's not picked a good week for it to be her shift with the phone. But anyhow, she's done a remarkable job this week. So as I said, we've got a number of speakers to get through. I will make sure that there's plenty of time at the end of the evening to take any questions that haven't been answered. It is a bit warm, and probably with this many people it get a bit warmer. I was just going to say, could we open those back doors? But someone's grabbed the initiative, so well done. You can, yes, if you wish to, that would be fine. The microphone's just here though for when you speak. So anyhow, our first speaker for tonight is John Rofe, so I'll pass over to John.
I think we're ready to rock and roll. Come in. Feel free. There's a couple of chairs here down the middle. About 10 chairs. Yeah, come in. Come in. Yeah. Yeah, there is still a few chairs up here for people if you want to come inside. Cool. Alrighty, we'll kick off. So thanks, Tony, for the intro. John Roaf's my name. I work with Forest Fire Management Victoria, but when the balloon goes up and we manage incidents, we all work under the one banner. So whether it's Forest Fire Management Victoria, our DECA colleagues, CFA, FRV, all the agencies, shires, etc., we're all on the one team. So first of all, I just want to acknowledge the people who are here tonight. Could someone? I might just move this. There's a car window shining right in my eye. Just want to acknowledge everyone who's come here tonight, and also the people who maybe can't be here tonight. There's a pretty big event happening up on the hill at the moment. It's impacting a lot of people already, and this fire has a lot of potential to make a lot of impacts over the coming days and coming weeks. So what I want to talk about tonight is just a quick rundown on the fire, what's happened to date, what we're planning to do to try and contain the fire, the challenges that we face in doing that. Have a chat around the weather that's we're sort of expecting over the next 7 days, and a lot of you may already know about that, but I'll certainly sort of run you through it from my perspective, and we'll go from there. Rod, you're going to hate me for this. I'd just like to acknowledge one of my mentors over many years, Roger Edwards, Cavendish local. So if I get it wrong, Rog, no. So but yeah, thanks. But seriously, over many years, it's people like Roger and his counterparts over many years who train the younger generation, if I can still say that. I'm getting closer to 60 than I was when I started, but we've had some really good experience passed on through the years by people like Roger and his colleagues. So thanks, Rog, for that over time. Just a bit on my background. I actually started out in the sort of mid-80s on the summer crew in the Grampians, actually working out of Horsham. I've sort of hiked the hills with a rayco and a chainsaw and those sort of things, and I know what our guys and girls are doing up there is not easy work. So we ask a lot of our people. And again, it doesn't matter what colour overalls you're wearing. They all work pretty hard to try and keep communities as safe as possible. So just to acknowledge the people doing the work on ground as well. So the fire itself, again, you'll all know, lightning strikes on Monday started a number of fires. Obviously, Little Desert ran really hard. It burnt, nearly 70,000 hectares in the one day. Almost the same size as the Yarram Gap fire, the original fire on the eastern side of the Gramps, the Serra Range, and it burnt that much, effectively in a day. So there's still some issues with that, but we're pretty on top of that one. There are some small areas, sort of even today, that were just causing us a bit of fire activity, causing us some grief, but most of the public land, the forested land that was going to burn up there, has burned. We're in a pretty good space there, and obviously that impacted Dimboola and a lot of people around the area there. The fires in the Gramps, so there was a number of lightning strikes sort of west of like the Zumpsteins, sort of south of the Wartook Valley. A couple of those fires have now joined up. Another one we managed to contain, and there is another one still burning as well. So with those fires up there, just sort of a little bit further out of the immediate patch here, one of our key tools to try and bring large forest fires to containment is back burning. So burning out to a sort of an established control line, so a mineral earth break, where we can anchor our control line to, and then burn out the fuel between the control line, the road, and the fire. That's a really key tool for us to undertake. So we are doing that. We do have, at the moment, a lot of resources, and over the last probably 24 hours, we've dramatically sort of increased our resources because we're going to increase our burning operation down south, which I'll talk about in a moment. So the plan is with those fires up around sort of Mount Victory Road, Wartook Valley, is to do a sort of a burning operation in a fairly large area to put a ring around that, a black burn out all the fuels in amongst the road network around those fires and bring them to containment. So the fire that we're dealing with down here, that you can all see out the window of your houses probably, we're calling it the Bullawin Road fire. And it's, again, lightning strike Monday. It's in pretty ordinary country, so inaccessible, hard to attack. And it is really dry. Again, no surprises there. And it's sort of, in a way, mirroring what happened sort of before Christmas with the Yarram Gap Road fire. We do have a lot of ground crews, so both Forest Fire Management Victoria, a lot of CFA crews as well. And we've got a pretty big fleet of aircraft that, we've got a lot. So there's the water bombing helicopters, and we've been sort of gradually bringing more and more in. A lot of the fixed wing bombers, so the smaller, so they're like the crop dusting air tractor machines, about 3,000 litres of water in a load. And then the two large air tankers that run out of Avalon down near Geelong. So they run, sort of 18,000 litres of retardant out in one go. So we're using a lot of that we use a lot this afternoon, get to the fire activity. So we were planning to try and contain the fire to the Henty Highway in the west. The fire has breached the Henty Highway sort of south of Glen Isla. And I should say, my apologies, we haven't got an overhead projector to put a map on a screen for you. But you will have a map of the fire extents on the back of your newsletter. And you'll see that the fire we're talking about is the one on the very sort of bottom left-hand side of your map. And for those looking at it, you'll see that the fire area is quite a way off the Henty Highway. So at the time this map was produced, the fire has since moved this afternoon under that southerly wind. And crossed the Henty Highway where it sort of swings to the west, south of Glen Isla there. We are holding it there, which is really good. We've got a lot of aircraft, so a lot of helicopters pulling water out of Rocklands, so their flight time is not great. So the shorter the flight time with helicopters, the more efficient they are, which is really good. So we've got good water supply close by there. It is also crossed to the north, Billywing Road. Just on the sort of northern end of the old plantation there. So again, sort of it's predicted. We were hoping it wasn't going to happen. We're trying to put strategies in place to prevent that, but it is getting on top of us in a couple of places there. Generally, sort of mid-afternoon to early evening, that's when fires like this will really sort of crank up, given it's sort of the warmest, driest part of the day. And we've got a sort of a fairly extensive bit of fire in the landscape as well. So the planned burning operation that I mentioned around the Bullawin Road fire is going to be quite extensive. So for today and tomorrow, we've still got a southerly influence, which works in our favour because we're effectively burning with the smoke and the fire sort of heading sort of in a northerly direction. And for a part of it, it'll be burning into the fire footprint as it currently stands. So that's what we're aiming to achieve all around the whole fire. But we're going to start sort of at the southern end, sort of on Bullawin Road, sort of on the Victoria Valley side. So we're starting at the southern end, and we may be underway at the moment, I'm not sure, but certainly the plan is, I've sort of a couple of hours since I left the ops room, planning to start on the southern end and work our way up, sort of the public-private land interface where we can. If we have to sort of broach out into private land in places where it's the public land boundary is inaccessible, we'll do that. And the plan is to burn right along the interface there and link it up to the Yarram Gap Road fire. So we did contemplate not doing that, but we just thought that with our experienced officers, the prediction work that we can do, this was the option that sort of produce the least risk to communities. So any option that we work with at the moment has a degree of risk. That's just how it is. So we're trying to pick the option that presents the least risk to communities, and two, obviously to our firefighters on the ground trying to implement these strategies. So that's the eastern side of the Vic Range. The plan will be to burn from Bullawin Road down to Victoria Point, and also around the western side, all the way up the western side, right up to effectively the Glenelg River, where it'll probably link in with that operation for the fires up north that I mentioned. So that's a very big operation. We do have a lot of CFA strike teams coming in. We do have a lot of Forest Fire Management Victoria task forces coming in, and they'll be working day shift, a swing shift. So a swing shift is 12 o'clock to 12 o'clock roughly. So during that afternoon, early evening, we've got a real peak of resourcing, and then we do have night shift numbers to keep an eye on things all the way through. So the way we're going to be resourcing our planned burning operation is we've got adequate resourcing. So if we do have breakaways from our planned burning operation, and that is likely to happen in places, given the fire, the terrain, the dryness of everything that's out there. We do have a significant number of resources we can deploy to sort of into a suppression mode or put the fire out mode where things do spot over our lines. So we can then, when that's sorted, we can continue the ignition of our back burning, because the back burning is the key thing we're trying to achieve, to burn the fuel out under our terms, if you like, before the weekend weather turns, it gets a lot warmer and turns to the north. So as I said before, the southerly wind, it's pushing everything away from us effectively. But once we get to Saturday, the wind swings around to the north. And then sort of over probably the next 3 days, we do have that northerly influence. So it's going to be pushing everything down this way. So while you've got nice clean air tonight, come Saturday, Sunday, that's going to change. It's going to be a lot of smoke, and the burning operations that we're going to do is going to greatly increase that amount of smoke as well. So just need everyone to be really prepared for that. So you will see, it'll probably appear to be a pretty dramatic increase in the amount of fire out there, and it will be, associated with a lot of increase in that smoke in the air, and that will largely be due to our back burning operations that we'll be undertaking. We will be well supported by aircraft. So that fleet of aircraft I mentioned still remains with us, and where we do have, again, control problems, we can also utilise the aircraft, mainly through daylight hours. We do have one aircraft that can fly at night and undertake water bombing activities, but it's only one, and they do have to fly. They've got to fly during daylight hours. They've got to have a visual of the site before they fly at night. So they are a tool we have. It's only a limited resource. One other tool that we use for our burning operation is what we call aerial ignition. So we have one of the smaller helicopters with a sort of a machine, little ignition machine on it. We call it the aerial ignition machine. So it will drop sort of small incendiaries, and what we're going to do with that is our ground crews will light sort of more around the edges of the fire. We're going to use the aerial ignition machine to light up sort of the high points, the ridges, and probably just below the ridges, just so we try and minimise the chance of a fire just being lit at the bottom and running right to the top of the hill under sort of high intensity. So that will introduce what we call backing fire. So we light up the high points, the ridges, and we'll sort of come in under them with our ignition to try and introduce some backing fire that then our ground ignition will link into. There's a bit of technical talk there, but the other aim of that is, of course, is to burn out the interior of the area that we're looking to burn out, because if we then have a lot of unburnt fuel inside our control line, and we get a strong wind and a fire gets running inside sort of our control line, it can get the big smoke column happening and spotting distance and spot out over our fire, and then we've got a whole different challenge to deal with there. So it's really about reducing the fuels, trying to reduce the runs of big fire, and trying to do this in a way that our crews can actually deal with when the problems do pop up. What does it mean for you guys in terms of what do you do? There's a lot of messaging out there at the moment. Really track that messaging and take note of what's being put out there. That messaging, while at times it may seem very cautious, fire is unpredictable. So The messaging that goes out, so on the Vic Emergency app, that gets sort of run through our operations team. So the guys who have the aircraft in the air, the guys on ground, that information all flows back into the ops room in Horsham. So our messaging is sort of validated via information from the ops team. So it's a really, really good source of information. I suppose my overall message is there will be smoke coming this way. There will be fire. There will be fire coming out of the Grampians National Park in places. We're trying to minimise the impact of that, but I can't say that we're going to be able to completely stop that. So we need to be prepared that fire may come out in places, but we have really resourced up a lot with our, particularly with our CFA counterparts, who are just absolutely fantastic at dealing with fires out in that private land country, and also your local CFA people, they know the country. A lot of them are farmers. They live on the land where this fire is going. They're a part of the CFA. And I think I can say we've tried to really strengthen our links into the local CFA brigades over the last couple of days particularly. And I actually came down here for a meeting with the captains last night to talk through the sort of stuff I've talked to you about tonight. And also I've just come from a meeting with some of them again tonight, just next door at the fire station. So, and a part of that was to try and get out as much local information as I can, talk to them around what our strategies are, what we're thinking of doing, and getting their input. So it's a joint team thing. And I've just found their input just so valuable in the way they've gone about it. So sort of a big thank you to all the local CFA brigades, particularly around the edge of the Grampians where this fire is likely to impact. I think probably from a fire perspective, Tony, there's probably enough there, but we'll get to the questions a bit later on.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Really appreciate that. No doubt the community will have questions, but we'll do those at the end. Probably interested in exploring a bit more too when we get to the questions about the smoke on the weekend. Is there any way to have a comment on what the thickness of that might be so that those with respiratory conditions can plan ahead? But anyhow, we'll get to that. I'll now introduce Mel from VicPol, who, in terms of emergency management, I've forgotten now, your role is?
So I'm in charge of the Victoria Police Response.
That's it. Good on you. Starting tomorrow.
Starting tomorrow, but my usual job cover from Port Campbell all the way up to the South Australian border and Southern Grampians. So Sean McCulloch's here. He manages all of our non-24-hour police stations within Southern Grampians. So all of the stations that we have that don't have a 24/7 response, which is everyone other than Hamilton Police Station. That's where Sean looks after our members. So thank you everyone for coming today. I just want to say thanks. It's so important that you do stay informed in these sorts of situations and that you have a plan. So you don't have to have it written down. It's always good if you do because it helps when you get stressed. But please make sure, from our point of view, have a plan and be ready to enact it. And I think John's already covered it, but please make sure that you heed the warnings that are coming out. So stay informed. It's really important that you've all turned up here to be informed, but it is continually changing. So please make sure you're using those apps and those sites to get the most recent information. You may actually see that there is an increased police presence that comes up. Please don't be worried about that. Our job is to make sure that you guys are safe. Our job is to support the control agency in what they're doing so that they're able to safely as possible, try and control the outcomes. So just be aware that you might see more of us up here. And one other message that I did want to point out, because we've had a heap of road trauma recently, please be safe on our roads. When you're leaving and you're stressed, please remember to drive to the conditions, okay? It's something that's really important in this community at the moment. There are a couple of traffic management points at the moment that are covered by Department of Transport for us. So they're at the Henty Highway and North East Wonwonda Road. And the other one is at Riley Street and Cavendish Glendinning Road. Hopefully I've said that right. But you can still access Nadimuck Hamilton Road, if that makes sense to some of the locals here. The only thing I wanted to say is please be reassured that all agencies are working hard to make sure we get the best outcomes for the community. So thank you for coming today. Happy to answer any questions later on.
Thanks, Mel. Really appreciate it. Really important message about drive to the conditions, and if you are evacuating or leaving home, you'll have so many things on your mind. It's really important just to take that moment to draw breath and think, okay, I'm in charge of a vehicle now. I need to focus on that. All right, now I'd like to introduce Richard from Emergency Recovery Victoria. Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, everybody. Great to see a huge number of people turn out for this. It's just great to see. So my name's Richard Kerwell. I'm the Senior Regional Relief and Recovery Officer for Emergency Recovery Victoria, which is a bit of a mouthful. And probably most of you are probably wondering who is Emergency Recovery Victoria. We're a fairly new agency, established in October 2022, just in time for the Victorian floods. So that was a bit of an eye-opener for all of us. So we've been around just over 2.5 years, and we were initially set up as a recovery agency by the Victorian Government after the Gippsland fires of 2019-2020 to deal with the recovery from that event. Since then, we have also taken on relief coordination since September last year. So at the state level, we have relief coordination and recovery coordination. Regional level, we have the same again, relief and recovery coordination. And at the local level, relief and recovery coordination is managed through council. So Suzanne is your go-to. I'll talk about relief first. So for relief, we support, as a coordinating authority, we support councils. We support them to support you. So it's like organising and setting up emergency relief centres, making sure all the relief agencies or bodies have done what they're supposed to do in this space. So making sure people like Red Cross, Victorian Council of Churches are at the relief centres, Vic Polar relief centres, St John's, whoever it may be. Recovery coordination obviously is probably not in that space at the moment yet, but recovery does start at the start of an event. So you have to think about getting the community back on their feet as soon as possible. Luckily so far we haven't been impacted this part of the world, or through Cavendish area and around here. But if you are impacted, we actually have an 1800 number which you can dial, and that will give you support to look at what financial assistance is available for me, what trauma-informed supports are available for me. Things like, I know most of you guys are probably farmers and on the land, so things like if your fence get destroyed, that's managed by AgVic. But we will, obviously, as a coordination authority, we will support them to support you again. So as a coordinating authority, we as an overarching body, but we don't come in and take over. We leave to try the local things, leave that to council. We'll support them the best we can to support you. So that'll probably do is a very quick overview who we are. And I'm happy to take questions later too, particularly if you need that 1800 number. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Richard. It's a good segue. I'll just introduce Susanna Mill, who's Council's Recovery Manager, amongst other things, so she'll just talk through some specifics about this weekend.
Thanks, Tony, and thanks for everybody coming tonight to get the information and to get informed. As Richard said, I coordinate recovery with my team, quite an extensive team behind me to make things happen. But one thing that we do is we provide support in the relief area. So we will operate an emergency relief centre, and that'll be based at the Hamilton PAC. So if you do find yourself in a situation where you have nowhere to go to if you decide to leave, you can present at the PAC and we'll provide assistance and support. Just to remember when you're actually getting ready to leave or preparing, it's really important to make sure that you have information documentation with you that proves your identity, your phone charges, any medication, your pets, and some overnight clothing. So that's just probably something that you might not be preparing to leave now, but to have that organised in case that you do leave. Staying up to date, can't stress how important that actually is, and that information changes quite regularly. and there's information below that update that will tell you where relief centres are. So there are relief centres in Horsham as well, so if you decide which way you need to go if you can't get through, have a look at that information and present to those locations. Let other people know where you are and that you're safe. We had a situation this afternoon where we had a phone call from a aged care provider and there was 3 clients that they hadn't been able to get in contact with. So checking on your neighbours, that, you know, if they're elderly, are they supported, what are they doing? But if you move away and you're relocating somewhere else, to let somebody know where you actually are. You can come into the relief centre even if you're not staying at the relief centre and actually register. So if somebody contacts us and says, is somebody I can't get in contact with, my uncle or my aunt or my mum or my dad, we can provide that support and that information. Be really wary during this event at all different stages to look after your own well-being. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. There's a lot of emotions and a lot of pressures going on. Be really wary of the children. You know, they see what's going on. They see your reactions and they'll need some reassurance, and try and keep things as normal as possible for them. If you do have to evacuate or you do need to get support and assistance, there is support available. It's available through ERC, it's available through local government, and it's also available through the Department of Family Fairness and Housing. So if you find that you've got an evacuation order and you've got expenses with relating to evacuating, there will be some financial emergency relief payments that you can access through a 1-800 number or a email. And that is a really simple process. So, you know, if there is something that comes up and that you do have to evacuate, there is support there. Once we transition to the recovery element, you know, that's when we start to look at what were the impacts. And impacts will vary for different communities and how you'll need that support. Farmers' needs are different to those of a community needs to that of a business. And we'll take all of that into consideration and try and support the community.
Yeah, great, Susanna. Thank you for that. So the Recovery Centre will be open, well, it's open now, be open over the weekend. There may be some moments over the weekend if there's no one there that it won't be staffed, but there's a number on the front door, and I promise you if you ring it, someone will be there within 15 minutes. Should also mention, lurking in the back corner is trying to be incognito, though he's wearing his fluoros, Trevor Halley, who our manager works. If anyone's got livestock concerns, it's worth having a conversation with Trevor before we leave tonight. We can accommodate livestock and horses at the Hamilton Regional Livestock Exchange. So if they're a worry and they're the only reason you're staying at home, yeah, you can, I know transport's sometimes not easy to arrange, but we can accommodate them if that's helpful to you at the Livestock Exchange. So I'd like to now introduce James Halley. James is with the CFA Southwest Region and he's their Manager of Community Safety, and he's been out on the planned burn today. So welcome, James.
Thank you very much. And, well, thank you everybody for coming along. I'm going to just give you a bit of an overview of the planned burn operations that CFA has been undertaking today. We'll continue to undertake tomorrow and into Saturday. So just by a bit of, I guess, understanding of who I am, I look after community safety for CFA basically from Geelong over to the South Australian border. I'm based out of Hamilton. I live in Dunkeld. And just like a lot of you guys who are residents here, the fires are probably wearing down on you for a few weeks. I understand what you've been going through. So, as I said, we've been undertaking burns today. We will continue tomorrow, and hopefully we're just doing patrol on Saturday, which means just making sure that they remain safe. We've focused on our highest priority has been getting the Dunkeld Cavendish Road burnt today, which we have about 95% completed. So crews from, local crews from Dundas Group, local brigades as well as Sarah Group, and crews from around the state, surrounding groups. I know Balmoral had crews there today. We had people from as far away as the Dandenongs and even over in Gippsland coming over to support those operations. So today's focus was Dunkeld, Cavendish Road. We did a small part of the Victoria Point Road, the southern section of that, and Bundall Road down towards Dunkeld as well. Tomorrow we are focusing on Victoria Point Road, so the northern part of that. Bundall Road, we've just got a couple of areas to tidy up on there. Noski Subdivision Road and Macanja Road, we're going to do the grassland on Macanja Road. So, and the purpose of that is to create a series of fallback lines in the event that we need them. So if we get spotting out of the national park come Sunday, Monday, whatever it may be, we've got a series of fallback lines to be able to control the fire from and to allow our crews to attack from. The other significant value of it is for access and egress for yourselves. So as you travel down those roads, you'll see, large, Dunkeld Cavendish Road, 60 metre wide, fuel reduced, nothing much to burn through. Well, I guess a couple of k's out of Cavendish onwards. So they're for our purposes, but they're equally for your purposes as well. The thing that I do need everybody to be aware of, though, is we have a series of road closures with these burns. So in our normal burn programs, we don't close roads, we manage the traffic on them. So if it's our normal fuel reduction program, you can still get through these roads. However, at the moment, because we are trying to get these done as efficiently as we can, we are closing these roads while we burn them. So I ask you to plan your travel. So plan to try and avoid these roads if you can. And plan your friends and family's travel. So if you've got friends or family who are coming, let them know, ask them to take a different route. If they're coming, from Dunkeld way, ask them to go via Hamilton this way and come up the other way. Because we have had a number of people today go through road closures, which is very difficult for us. We've had some people who are coming through to assist their family up on Henty Highway. If you've got people coming to assist you with your own property protection, please let them know. So, because what they're actually doing is they're wasting more time by coming down, getting turned back and having to go a different way. So please don't travel through those road closures, and please have a plan for this weekend and next week. Obviously, the weather ahead is not great weather. We're doing a lot of work between Forest Fire Management, ourselves. We need you guys to do a bit of work too, which is preparing your properties, preparing your arrangements and helping us. So, look at what you can do, make sure you've got that plan in place and get yourselves ready in case we need you to act. So, and the last thing, communicate that plan. So if you've got a plan, communicate it to your family and friends so they know what you're doing, and so your husband and your wife or your kids and so forth know what you're doing. So I'll leave it at that and hand it back.
Yeah, great work. Thanks. Thank you very much, James. So now I'd like to introduce Rowena Clift, who is the CEO at Western District Health Service. So thanks, Rowena.
Thank you, short person. Thank you. I just want to say again, Western District Health Service is always here for you. Our emergency department will always be available. The district nurses should be making phone calls. Any vulnerable people, have a think about that. Not only fire, but we've got a lot of heat coming, so you need to look after yourselves. Really importantly, stay hydrated, look out for others around you. I also want to say to you that your own health is so important. I know livestock and land is very important to you. National Centre for Farmer Health has some remarkable resources if you need them, and there's a range of resources that will be available. Meg Watson here is our respiratory nurse practitioner. She's just got a couple of tips when it comes to smoke.
Okay, bit of common sense. We often hear that common sense is not so common. If you've got a chronic respiratory condition, you will sense and feel the smoke coming before you can see it. Your airways are so sensitive. Make sure you have enough of your reliever, typically Ventolin. Did you know that you can buy Ventolin over the counter? You don't need a script. Stock up. Let your family members know where it is as well, because if you've got airway problems, you cannot talk sometimes, you cannot speak. So let your family members know where that is as well. Leave early, as everyone said. If you've got an action plan for your asthma or COPD, make sure you've got all your medications with you. If you are at home, windows down, doors shut. If you've got the air conditioning on, put it on recirculate, and that goes for when you're travelling in the car as well. And if you can, go and stay with family members away from the smoke. That is the best thing for you. Okay, thanks. And I'm here afterwards. You can come up and approach me if you need to. Thanks.
Thank you. That's really, really pertinent, timely and great advice, so thank you. All right, so that's the end of our speakers. So I think we've got a couple roving mics. So I think Vicky's volunteered to be one of our mic deliverers. If someone else wanted to put their hand up to run a mic around, we'll take some questions. Thank you. So maybe just introduce yourself, say your name, and then ask a question, please.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, Tony, could you indulge me for 2 minutes?
2 minutes. No,
Thank you. Malcolm Rowe from the Rural Financial Counselling Service. I'm based in Hamilton. I've been a farmer for the last 22 years. For most of that, I'm now a rural financial counsellor. I've been member of a couple of rural fire brigades in that time, and on Boxing Day I was on the other side of the mountain helping a friend muster sheep and cattle off country that was potentially going to burn. Anyway, that's another story. That was all right, it didn't burn. But what I just want to say is that the Rural Financial Counselling Service can support farmers and small businesses in times of disaster recovery like this, but we're here all the time as well. And so, given that the last couple of seasons have been reasonably gnarly, all sorts of stresses have been imposed upon farmers in that time and small businesses in small towns, we can help. We can provide guidance, we can provide someone to talk to you, and we can maybe help with some of your financial issues if that's a problem for you. The issue might not be right now, immediately after or during a disaster, but it might happen in 6 weeks' time or 6 months' time. So just remember, there is a brochure that you can pick up outside. If you want to put the number in your phone now, do it, because you might not need it now, as I said, but if you need it later, you'll have it. So thank you very much.
Good on you.
Happy to take your call. The 1300 number will ring in Hamilton, and it'll be triaged to one of the counsellors that's around Western Victoria. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Really important message. Thank you. So, other questions or questions? Yeah, we've got one over here, Vic.
Yeah, hello. I'm just wondering if there's an update on Glen Isla.
Sorry, I didn't quite...
A current update on Glen Isla.
Oh, Glen Isla.
I should have led at the start too. I'm profoundly deaf in one ear, so I might find it a bit hard to hear some of the questions. No, cool. I'm with you. That's all right. Yeah. So Glen Isla. So at the moment, I don't know if you got one of the newsletters. You can see Glen Isla on the map. So the fire is still well south of Glen Isla at the moment, but there is active fire sort of directly to the south of you. So we do have a southerly wind. So at the time the meeting kicked off, I did put a phone call into our operations room just to see where the fire was at. So the fire had just crossed sort of Billywing Road to the south. So we're working pretty hard on that with aircraft and ground crews to try and stop it there. So as of half an hour, just crossed to the northern side of Billywing Road. Yep. Yeah, I'd have to... I'd have to get an update to go any broader than that. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, and this map will be updated, of course. So as I said, things were pretty dynamic this afternoon out there. So this map will be updated at some point with another one to come out. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I can't hear that. Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Right, thanks, John. Any other questions? Yes. We've got one.
We're going to start where Bullawin Road, effectively roughly where Bullawin Road meets the southern boundary of the fire at the moment, or just a little bit south of that. Probably where the park boundary takes off Bullawin Road to the east. That's where we're actually going to start. We still need to tie it up into the park back north on Bullawin Road to the fire boundary, and then around to the sort of the northeast from there. So that's our start point. And then we'll also be coming south a little bit later on once we're established our operation heading north. Yep.
Les Payne, well, I'm Victoria Point resident.
Yep.
What time will the burn start in the morning?
Yep.
Or tomorrow?
Well, no, we're actually looking to start our burning operation like tonight, so late this afternoon or this evening. As soon as conditions are right, we'll be going. So if it's not going already, I did put a call back into the ops room about an hour ago, and they hadn't started then, but it'll be underway, I would suggest, before nightfall tonight. Yep.
We'll be able to get home, will we?
Yep. Yep. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you should be able to. We're burning the park, but yeah.
Susan Jarvis, property owner at Gateham. I've been looking at the Wimmera weather forecast on the bomb site, and there's reference to wind changing to southeasterly, easterly, northerly and northeasterly. I've heard no reference tonight to any plans for asset protection on the west side. So from Moralla down to Cavendish, across to Gateham and further north.
Yep. So just I've got your locality there. What was your question, sorry?
I just want to know what the plans are for asset protection on the west side.
Yep, okay. So we will be, we're actively fighting fire at the moment. The plan is to do some burning out operations. We probably won't get that far tonight, but we do have a lot of CFA strike teams available, combined with FFMV, so Forest Fire Management Victoria crews as well. And then during daylight hours, we've got helicopters. So those resources will be deployed. It'll have to be quite reactive if we're falling back to asset protection. But we do have a lot of resources that will be falling into asset protection pretty quickly if places do come under threat. And that'll have to be a sort of case by case. But we do have a lot of resources out there that will be available for that type of thing. Now, I do have to say, because we've got a lot of resources, it doesn't guarantee a tanker up your driveway. We've got a lot of aircraft. It doesn't guarantee a helicopter to come to your property, because there may be multiple demands on those resources, but we do have a lot of resource available for those purposes. Yep.
Are there going to be any planned burns?
Sorry, you'll have to speak up. You have to speak up, sorry.
Doing backburning on the western side?
Yep, yeah, we do have plans to backburn on the western side. So from Victoria Point that we referenced just before, well, there's already been some burning on the western side off the Gearak track, and a little bit further north as well. But the plan is to burn to the park boundary, basically all the way up that western side of the park. Now, we will need to fall back from that where it crosses that boundary, and it has in a couple of places, like where it's crossed the Henty Highway, where we'll then have to go sort of fall back even further to the west to establish a line there to burn to. Yep, but the whole western side is where we're planning to burn that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yep. Just grab a microphone here. Oops. Rog.
No, I just want to know what time.
Roger?
Just want to know what time. Thank you, Tony. And now, look, I've had a look at your strategy. I reckon a lot of people in here tonight will be breathing a little bit easier, because what you're doing is forming that line along the western side to protect private property and along the eastern side, so that when the wind slops around to the north, save Marinatra, etc. So I agree with your strategy, John. Just a couple of questions. How many resources are you talking about?
Okay, so at peak of effort, it will vary, but we'll have like sort of 600 people available, which is quite a lot. When you think of a, say like a CFA strike team, sort of 5 tankers in a strike team, let's say 4 people in a tanker, so there's 20 people. We've got minimum 12 strike teams sort of ordered for the operation, and similar number of FFMV task forces, which again are 20 people. And there are a lot of other, like there's a CFA Plan Burn strike team, which is sort of in Warrnambool tonight. They're available to us additionally tomorrow to help with the burning operation. Then you start talking about our, so that's sort of on ground. We do have a lot of other resource sort of available to be deployed if we need to. Yeah. And then there's the aircraft to support air bases, all those sort of things as well. Yeah.
And when do you intend to finish this back burning? It'll be tonight and in the morning, tomorrow?
As soon as possible,
Yeah.
but it won't be finished tonight, no. And it's going to be pretty tough getting it finished before the wind changes to north, to be quite honest. So real focus on, we'll be igniting in sort of multiple places, sort of from tonight. One heading north up the Vic Valley, one heading south down towards Victoria Point, and then swinging around onto the western side. So there'll be multiple crews lighting, and then the aircraft will be coming in to help burn out the interior of the areas that we've lit up.
Agreed. I think it sounds as if you've got plenty of people and plenty of resources. And great work, James.
Well done.
Fantastic. To back this, all of this up.
Yeah.
Well done.
We just had a question here around the planned burns tomorrow, James, and what time the roads will be closed?
So we aim to be briefing crews between 8:30 to 9 o'clock and igniting anywhere between 9 o'clock onwards. So we're going to try and hold Dunkeld Cavendish Road open for most of the day. There may be a couple of periods where it is closed in some areas, particularly at the Dunkeld end, but we'll keep the majority of it open, and you might have to head off at McIntyre's Crossing Road or whatever. But that'll be early in the day. We're trying to get that tidied up pretty quick. So, but from 9 o'clock onwards, the other local roads be throughout the day. And once we've completed those burn operations, we will have them open as quickly as possible. Probably not. Yeah, too quick. Yeah. So.
You've got a question over here.
Hello.
That's right.
Is this on? Rhonda Crawford, Victoria Valley. I'm not far from Liz Payne at Victoria Point. I've been watching the planes go over home before Christmas and then since Tuesday. How many planes and helicopters have you got, please? Can we get the big one too? And
We've got a lot of aircraft.
How many's a lot in numbers? I'm an accountant. How many please?
Let me run through it. So,
Thank you.
Two of the large air tankers, the ones that fly out of Avalon, we've had up to minimum 8 of the fixed-wing bombers, so the smaller fixed-wing aircraft. Our water bombing helicopters, we vary between what we call type 1s or heavies. They're the ones that carry like 7,000 to 9,000 litres of water. And then the mediums sort of can carry generally around 1,500 litres of water, depending on size. And we've had up to 8, 10 of them available to us, plus the night bombing operation, so 11. And there are more helicopters around sort of the geographic area. So places like Colac, Ballarat, where I'm from, Bacchus Marsh, Bendigo, that if need to, we shift those additional helicopters towards us or to us, and that's all coordinated. So the ones that I mentioned, so the LATs, the fixed wings, the helicopters, they're attached to us, as in attached to our incident. The only way they disappear from our incident is if I release them as the incident controller, which I'm not going to do just for the moment. But we can request more if we need to. So we have sort of some pretty extensive breakout of fire that we need more aircraft. We can call on them, and state then makes the decision on how much more they can send us. But there is more out there, yep.
So where are they filling up from?
Yep.
They seem to be going over home, and then, so is it just from Hamilton or where else, please?
Okay, so there's a few different strands to that one. I'll start with the helicopters. So for example, up near our Billywing Road at the moment, they'll be filling out of Rocklands. And when I was with the CFA just before this one, there's a system we can get up on a computer system that tracks all the helicopters, and you can see where they're flying to and from, so you can see where they're filling from. So they're filling up from Rocklands. They will fill up from sort of just dams and things, water sources around the place. Obviously, a few of the dams don't have much water in them at the moment. Helicopters also, we have what we call dip tanks. They look like shipping containers, open top, converted into effectively a water holding tank. We've got 2 of them, and we can locate them in a farmer's paddock relatively close to where we're operating, and then we just keep them full by running water tankers to them, so the helicopter flight time is short. So that means more drops per hour out of a helicopter is more efficient. So the fixed-wing bombers that you'll be talking about, the large air tankers, so the big birds, they all go back to Avalon. Avalon's got some really extensive retardant mixing and filling capability there. And those large air tankers, they're pretty quick in the air, even though they're big. So sort of Avalon to here would be talking, I actually asked this question yesterday, probably once they're full, it's about a 40-minute flight time across to here, and there's 2 of them. The fixed-wing bombers, certainly Hamilton. Stawell is another location where we can obviously Stawell sort of well service the Aram Gap Road fire, but Hamilton for the fixed wings would be a key one for us as well.
Rhonda, for the accountant in you, we had 29 filled at the airport yesterday at Hamilton, so that's why you would have seen a bit of traffic.
There you go.
Yes.
And I should say, sorry, just on aircraft, there is a number of other types of aircraft that we use. So we have a number of fixed-wing aircraft that we use for what we call aerial observation, so they can provide intelligence back to the control centre. We have you'll see the smaller helicopters, we call them Firebirds. They will do both air observation, but they'll also fly sometimes, well, they will a little bit higher than the tactical or the bombing aircraft, and they will sort of air traffic control from above, if you like. And the large air tankers that fly out of Avalon, they have a lead plane, so a small twin-engine plane that does the recce, and then they'll come through and sort of almost be the guide plane for where they're going to drop. So there's a lot of support aircraft as well as the bombing aircraft.
Thank you. And someone said there was graders and dozers going around doing brakes. How wide's the brake like?
How wide's a grader blade, guys? Sort of about 8 feet. And there are some lines that have been putting in today that are sort of 2 grader widths wide.
So it's not as wide as the hall?
Not as wide as this. No.
Why don't they do them wider? Aren't they allowed to?
Well, we could. There's also a time factor, how long it takes us to put the mineral earth. What we're really trying to achieve is mineral earth. So there's a break in the fuel, and that's what we need. So in some places we'll do 2 blade widths wide through the paddocks. Generally through the bush, I know we've had like a D8 bulldozer. D8's a pretty big bit of machinery. It will be like effectively 1 blade width plus a little bit. And they'll also be constructing like turnaround points so traffic can get off and pass and things like that. But we don't want to create more disturbance than is necessary. And the time it would take to create a break like this around the whole fire, it would just dramatically increase the time it would take. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Cool, thank you. No, good questions.
Can I just add a point to what you were saying before about the water and its concern? Those tanks that you're talking about are set up at the moment right opposite the Morella Fire Brigade.
Bingo, they are.
And tomorrow on, there's going to be 8 tankers carting water to that helicopter. So they won't be taking so much out of the dam, so it'll be
And those, for example, where we're running out of sort of Rocklands at the moment, obviously they're not going to fly back to where the tanks are because they're further away. But certainly where the tanks are near Morella, you're spot on. They just make it much more efficient for our helicopter operations. Yep. Tony, there's a couple, one here and one here.
Can I just ask a quick question? Is there any preparation?
Sorry, just grab it.
Yeah,
no, thank you.
sorry, I'll just ask.
You might just step back a bit from the speaker.
Yep. Are there any plans to have the pipeline switched on to fill the tanks on the Rocklands to Hamilton pipeline?
No, I don't have it. I'm not unaware of that one. That'd be one for our maybe our water authorities, but no, I'm not sure. Sorry. Yep. A microphone just here, mate. Yep.
Not surprising, I'm short. Are you allowed to do
Yeah.
Are you allowed to do planned fire burns on fire prohibited days?
On prohibited days?
Yes.
Look, while we're working under our emergency legislation, which is effectively what we are at the moment, we will be able to burn under different conditions than we would if we were doing planned burns, say, later in autumn. So if the conditions are such that it's, because there's already fire up there, so there's already a big fire up there. So generally, say, if we had weather like today, tomorrow, we wouldn't be doing our planned burns normally. But given we're dealing with an emergency, we've got the legislation we work under, and we're trying to sort of prevent that emergency from getting bigger, we are able to burn, yep. Sorry.
Just out of interest's sake, where is the current staging areas for the agencies?
Look, we are still working on setting up a staging area down at the southern end of the fire. We're also currently, because we're bringing all these people in, we've got to provide a bed for them and feed them and that sort of stuff. We've got a range of what we call hard accommodation, so motel rooms, things like that. There we've got a lot of people in Halls Gap, Horsham, and a lot of commercial venues. We are looking to set up and it's underway at the moment, setting up a base camp up in Horsham at the showgrounds. So set-up of that commenced today, and we expect that to be operational by Saturday. So Horsham seems a long way from here, I get that. But we're also servicing the Dimboola fire. So we've sort of got to we've found a location where we had to be able to send crews both ways. That's where it's at the moment. We'll see what happens and see whether it remains the current practice.
Sorry, I'm Liz Marcus from Miranatwa. I'm just asking, how are you planning to merge the two fires at the north of Miranatwa?
Yep. So as we burn from sort of Bullawin Road, sort of down the southern end of the fire, we'll be tracking the private property boundary all the way up, and there's a road, I think it's Boundary Road, that links into the existing fire footprint. So we'll be looking to go across there. Yep. But certainly linking into that other fire. Sorry? How are you going to stop it going north from there? Well, what we're looking to do initially, and that's a good question, why we're starting at the southern end is so we can burn underneath, if you like, the existing fire. So you've got the fire up here, so we're burning underneath, so it'll burn up to the fire as it is. So this fire is going to keep moving a little bit, so we're going to stage or stagger our ignition so it sort of is still in sync with where the head of that fire is. So we'll have to make a decision, probably in 24 hours from now, if our ground ignition really catches up with the head of the fire, just how we deal with the last little bit to lock it into the existing fire footprint from the Aram Gap fire. But that's a decision that we'll be taking probably later tomorrow, but we're certainly well aware of that. The fire's going to go north by itself anyway, under the southerly wind. So our objective is not to try and speed that up, but we may have to introduce some fire sort of to the north of the public land boundary to tie that off, if you like. We can do that, but if we do that a little bit closer to when the wind goes round to the north, obviously it's going to not make it go to the north any further, you see. So there's a bit of a timing sequence there with our ignition. It's a little bit technical, yeah. But as I said, on ground, we have got guys. I've been in this job for sort of 35 years, from a young lad effectively to now. And some of our guys on ground, they've been around just about that long as well, doing this sort of thing, so they really understand what they're doing and how to tie things in and how to sequence it so it doesn't create further problems. So it's not without challenge and without risk, but we've got good people on the job. Well, we're not saying that it's going to be perfect and we'll just put a little ring around and fire around the edge and that's it. That is certainly not what we're expecting. It's going to be really challenging and it's not without risk. And being aware of that, we do have, as I said, a lot of resources in our pockets to be able to respond to things that maybe don't go as well as we would hope. Yep. Just grab a microphone. Microphone here, mate.
Sorry, just one last one.
Yep.
How sure are you, given next week's extreme weather, that air crews will stay in the Grampians fire?
How sure are we that the crews will stay with us? Yep. So we had a pretty extensive meeting about 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon with the chief fire officers of both the CFA and Forest Fire Management Victoria, and they effectively were asking us to reinforce what we need to be able to implement this strategy to contain the fire. So they've basically been giving us everything that we've been asking for, and this is obviously the priority for us. So what we've got, we ain't letting it go. And it's a bit like aircraft. The incident controller has to release any resources from an incident. That's the sort of the formal process. So people just can't come and take them. And while it's me or my replacement coming in, we won't be letting stuff go before we're comfortable that we can. So, yeah, it's up to us to let them go, and we're not doing that for the moment.
John, I evacuated from Morella this morning. Could you give us a bit of a rundown on what's happening between Woolpoor and Morella at the moment?
As in the fire activity. Can I just grab my map? Just a little bit. One of them will be fine. Thank you. So between Morella and Woolpoor, so the fire has actually crossed the Henty Highway, just where so if you run Glen Isla directly south and then the highway sort of heads off to the sort of southwest, it's crossed at that junction, that sort of bend in the road there. Though we were, about an hour ago, the advice I got from our ops team was that we're actually holding it there. So they deployed helicopters there really quickly and they will effectively stop the spread of the fire. And then we've deployed a bulldozer to put a track around that so the mineral earth breaks. So that's where the fire activity was over the highway. This is an hour ago. And then, as I said, it had just breached sort of Billy Ring Road, sort of in a northerly direction. So I haven't got, again, we deployed helicopters and ground crews to that space there to stop that spread. So I haven't got any more update than that at this point. Yep.
Thanks for that.
Cool.
Don, I'm a local. I've been watching the fires in the Grampians for several years now, and also watching the way you do your fuel reduction burns.
Yep.
And in what's happened in the last couple of years, have you got any plan to modify the way you do your reduction burns so they actually create a fire break?
Look, I'm not actually from this area, so I can't comment on what the local plans are. I do know there was a burn done last year, sort of out in the western side of the Vic Range, and if you have a look at the sort of the fire footprint from that, the fire has sort of burnt around the edge of that at the moment. So the more recent burns are providing some benefit to us, but in terms of the overall plan burning strategy, I can't comment on that piece. Yep.
Look, we might leave it at that, but we'll leave it at that. But speakers will hang around. If you do have questions, please just approach them. I just want to say thank you to our speakers because you've all been busy, continue to be busy, so let's give them a round of applause. At the huge risk of telling you exactly what you already know, just keep an eye on the Vic Emergency website or app. They've got a hotline if you need more information. ABC Radio is a really good source of information. All the agencies have a website. Also, Council has information on its website. So stay up to date with the information. As we said, we've got evacuation centre in Hamilton if you want to leave. I believe there's another one in Horsham also. So you've got two choices there. We won't be too insulted if you decide to go to Horsham instead. But look, thank you for coming along tonight. We really appreciate that you are here to hear from our speakers, and please stay safe over the weekend. Thank you. How are you, mate? Yeah, great. Good that people are part of the